And now, live from Renta Studios in Canada's tech capital, Waterloo, Ontario, it's Ang Rob Rants. Together for your hosts, Coté and Robert Bruski.
Let's shake it, everyone. Yes. High five. It's your high five too.
All right.
Rock and roll.
I love these in-person rants.
Happy Friday. Boom.
Cheers.
Man.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It's so great to be together again and film more of these.
Oh my gosh, we're in person.
Yeah.
All that Zoom recording and all that, right? But here we are.
Yeah, we're doing it, but we're doing it a little different because last time we did lives, we just sort of talked about what we thought was going to be the most pertinent to the audience. But now that we have a fan club that you can find on www.angandrobrants.com, also non-fungible tokens coming to the market, we actually have viewer and listener questions. And so today...
I know. I can't believe this is so cool. And by the way, sometimes they come to me through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just so you know, I haven't even told you that's where they sometimes come through. So it's the fan club and, other method, whatever. Reach out to us however, but I like that if they use the fan club, the proper system, because we're all about systems. Franchise people are about systems.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
use the system, okay? People, stop using LinkedIn. We're happy to get the questions, so we'll take them anyway.
Cool. Okay, well, I've got this teleprompter in front of me that's got a question from somebody. It says, Dear Ang and Rob Rants, I am a franchisor and I feel like I've done everything right, but things don't seem to be working out for me. Is there something I'm missing? Maybe something that isn't a tangible thing, like an operations manual. Please help. Your fan. And then that's blacked out for privacy reasons.
Of course, yeah. Okay. So you're asking me to answer that?
So basically what this person is saying is that they seem to have created an entire franchise system. They've got all the processes, they've got processes, they've got operations manuals.
For our American friends, in case you weren't sure what that was, processes are processes or vice versa.
They seem to have everything figured out. I presume that things are probably not working well, and so they're asking, I've got all these tangible things done. What could it be in the intangible realm that's doing
well, it's first of all very interesting that somebody actually recognizes that, because usually, when people, when they are not moving forward or they feel a little bit stuck, they actually usually think it's probably something they need to do, a task that they need or an action they need to take. And I guess it kind of is. And this is a great question, because what I've noticed over the past sort of 6 years of working with different franchisors at different stages is that even an established franchisor CEO with a couple hundred franchisees can face different mindset roadblocks or limiting beliefs about am I good enough? Am I a good enough CEO? How do I compare to other CEOs? Or if it's an emerging franchisor, they feel insecure about what they're doing. So recognizing these things is so critical to success. Recognizing when we're thinking something that's stopping us from thinking something or believing a belief, that we have that's stopping us from getting to the next level.
Okay. So I mean, I relate to this quite heavily because sometimes I can't recognize when the pineapple that I've put on the rotisserie is really dead.
No, that's not actually a very comparable analogy, but okay.
Okay. So what you're talking about here is limiting beliefs, and entrepreneurs have limiting beliefs, right? And so it's important to recognize that you have that, but it's also important to be able to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. So I wonder, maybe like, do you have an example in your life where there was a limiting belief or some sort of a roadblock that was created because of your limited beliefs, I should say? And maybe, I mean, a follow-up question would be like, how did you deal with that? Because I think generally most people understand the concept of limiting beliefs, and I think most people also believe that such a thing is real. I just think a lot of people don't think that they face those. You know what I mean?
They think that people that look successful on the outside don't face them or didn't face them.
Yeah. And to be clear, that's a difference from happiness, right? Oftentimes, a very successful person may seem like they got everything put together, money, car, family, flights, all that sort of stuff, and they're not happy. That's a whole other narrative. This is just about limiting beliefs. They could very well be happy, but maybe they're not reaching the next level of happiness because they have these limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm.
You know what might be helpful is if we identified some of the most common limiting beliefs that we see, and then we could go into, I can give you an example that will relate.
Let's do it. Okay. You guys up for that? Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Okay.
It sounds like yes. Yep. That's a yes, I'd say. Okay. So I'm going to give you three that I see most commonly in the franchisors that I've worked with over the years. And it's been so fascinating for me because I didn't even think of this until I started to see this. You know, I'd be working with somebody on a, maybe weekly or bi-weekly basis. We'd be meeting and working through their challenges, and it would be like, I'm trying to figure out how to find more franchisees, or I'm trying to figure out how to, my franchisees are not listening to me, they're not profitable. How do I get them profitable? And I'm like, I can give you those answers all day long. But if you don't address this thing that I'm sensing right now, that you've got a limiting belief about something that's actually stopping you and you can go do that thing, but if you don't fix this first, that's not even going to work. So the things that I've seen, one of the most common ones is self-doubt, or like, am I good enough? So the way this would show up for an emerging franchisor is my franchise offering good enough? I'm so young and new at this, and I don't have everything dialed in. And what they often do is they try to make it look like they have everything put together, and they're kind of hiding behind this face of, I've got everything put together. Meanwhile, they've got this belief that they're not sure if their economics are good enough, and if their model's good enough, and what they're giving franchisees is good enough compared to what other franchisors are giving. But the problem is, if they've got that self-doubt, then they tend to project that out, and people pick up on that, and they sense that you're not that confident about what you're offering, and that's going to stop your growth really fast. So I can help you all day long, find and support franchisees, but if they're picking up on that, you're going to hit a growth roadblock. So self-doubt, again, it could be an established franchisor, a CEO, and they're unsure, and so they make a decision when they're in that mindset that they made, wrongly, that didn't help them move forward because they were feeling insecure. So self-doubt is one. I've got two more. Got a question?
No.
One. Oh, you're counting. Okay. Yes. Somebody's counting. Okay. One. Okay. Number two, and this is not actually in order, but another one would be, or is, perfectionism. You hear me say all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've taught you that, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like, perfectionism and I have a very tumultuous relationship. We sometimes don't get along, but sometimes we get along just incredibly. I love for things to be perfect. I love for my best effort to go in, and I want to do it once and right instead of do it multiple times. However, on the other hand, I also understand that could take so long that I may never deploy what I'm trying to deploy.
You could miss the boat.
I could miss the boat. And there it goes. See ya.
Yeah, sail away. Yeah. So when it comes to perfectionism, again, I see people lacking the action taking that they need to take. They're not taking the action that they need to take, and I'll go back to emerging franchisors. What I see, again, they're insecure. So they think that if they get everything set up and make it look perfect, then people will buy into their brand. And I always tell them, I say, flip that on its head and say, why don't you tell people, hey, we're early stage. We're still figuring a lot out. We're looking for people that get excited about kind of taking a bit more risk, people that get excited to help us build out this process, build out the materials and the things that we have to feel more confident. So, it's a roadblock, but when you recognize, oh my gosh, perfection is slowing me down. Action, we say at AC Inc., as you know, action equals growth. By taking action, you'll learn. You might fail, but you will learn something from it and you'll move on. I don't call it, I call it win or learn. I've heard that, I forget where I got that from, but I love win or learn. Learn, move on. So perfectionism. So number 3, again, not in order, but the third one I see is lack of boundaries. And the way this shows up the most is that I see franchisors who think that they're providing value to their franchisees by being available kind of 24/7. Just they've got my number and they can I always want to be available. I want to have an open door policy. And they think that by having an open door policy, they're being a good leader. And I always think that that's role modeling, that you don't value your time and you don't value other people's time. I want to show people that if, as a leader, I want people to know that, I'm going to be available at certain times, but there's going to be times I'm going to be working on the things that I need to do to grow this business that's going to benefit all of us. But if I go to do those things and I let interruptions and distractions come in, I can't do the important stuff. I see this a lot with franchisors where they feel like they owe it to their franchisees to always be available. And I don't agree with that. I think you need to set boundaries and recognize that again, you're role modeling, but also that you're teaching. Yeah, sorry, I'm saying it again. But you're teaching them to do the same with the people around them. So those are 3 things that I see slowing people down, that they don't always recognize themselves, but by being an advisor or coach to them, I get to see it, and I look at it and see it. And so you asked me, now I sound like Gary Vee. That's
what he does, right?
Yeah, that was funny. I have been able to recognize these things because I always believe in mentors and coaches as well, because we don't see our blind spots. So I've had, coaches and mentors help me uncover my limiting beliefs. And you asked me.
An example of one.
So an example of my limiting beliefs? Or?
Yeah, so I asked you specifically an example of a limiting belief that you've found and what you did to overcome that.
Okay, so get vulnerable is what you're telling me.
That's what I could get vulnerable too.
Yeah, I don't
everyone today, I'm wearing socks that have tacos on them. We could talk about that later.
I don't know if that's really being
also
vulnerable.
shoes made by Giovanni Milan. You can contact me for a discount code. I'm their new representative, so influencer. I'm not kidding.
Is this a commercial?
No,
commercial break?
It's a real.
I know, you're not kidding. I've heard that. Okay, all right. Yeah, so this is a bit vulnerable. I started this business working with franchisors to help them, grow their business and really understand how to optimize franchise relations so that they could optimize franchisee profitability. Started this about 6 years ago, and I felt very uncertain about what I was going to do, but I just had done some networking, and Career Coach had helped me understand that, hey, maybe I can help franchisors. So I go along, I start this a couple years in, I had hit some roadblocks, some technical roadblocks where I, had some challenges. I had some wins as well, but I believe that we sort of attract what we need in our lives or what we think we need maybe, and got an opportunity to work for a company that does advising for small business, and thought, what, I could go do that. I can still work with franchisors. I can have a team. I had some self-doubt is really what it comes down to at that time, that I could actually build a business. So in that, went and did this job for 15 months, great people, they're doing great things, but I never really felt, settled there. And we tried to do different things to, maybe I can work in this role or that role. And at the end of the day, it was a great experience, but I realized that I needed to do my own thing. And I never really regret things, because I think we always learn from the things we do. But when I look back, it was the self-doubt that made me give up my business. I gave up. I let my website just go, and I just let my brand go, and it was the self-doubt. And again, I don't regret it, but it's interesting that if I had somebody helping me with that self-doubt, maybe because here I am now, very blessed to have a team of 8. Which you are part of.
At time of filming. I know we have a live studio audience here today, but
right.
This is going to live on the internet somewhere.
Right, good point. And so it's recognizing and the importance of, and now I recognize it so much faster when I'm doubting either my abilities or what I offer the world, and I recognize it, and now I have, I'm fortunate to have a team and people around me that help me recognize it, but I can't rely on that. I have to rely on myself. You have to learn to recognize these things that stop you, catch them, and then face them and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fred Van Fleet from the Raptors always talks about Raptors time of filming. Who knows what's going to happen in the draft?
Right.
But he always talks about bet on yourself, and it's important to, it's tough. I got to tell you guys, sometimes it's tough to be able to isolate what your limiting belief is, You think you know, and somebody comes along and goes, that's not a limiting belief.
But it can change too, and it's not always a limiting belief. Sometimes it's just a kind of a mindset roadblock or something's more intangible that's slowing you down from growth.
Yeah.
That you're not recognizing about yourself. And then when you recognize and you go, oh, this is just that thought that I'm having or this way I'm doing this, and then you have this breakthrough when
Eureka!
You put it aside and it's Eureka. Yeah.
Cool, I dig it.
All right.
I dig it. Thanks for sharing that.
Well,
I'm glad we didn't have to go get any tissues.
Do you have any limiting beliefs that you want to talk about of your own besides?
Okay, so this has gone from Ang Rob Rants to Dr. Phil therapy.
Should we get some tissues?
No, you know what? I think
I don't have any. Okay, we need to go do some work. Because you do, actually.
You know what? I think probably my biggest limiting belief is expectations that I have of people.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah?
Really?
I think from every standpoint, whether it's business or personal or reliability, accountability, all that sort of stuff, I always have the highest expectations of everyone. And I think what I tell myself is I expect the best out of everyone. I don't want them to start below and plus.
You're expecting them to be perfect.
Yes.
That's a different belief.
And then they don't. I'm like, dude, I've been waiting for 2 minutes. Why are you late? Can you not be on time?
Okay, so can I address this for a minute?
Absolutely.
Okay, 2 things. One is when you have that, don't you think that isn't this kind of like the whole he who is without sin throw the first stone?
Yeah.
That means if you hold people to that expectation and then you're late, what are you going to do? Number 1. But number 2 is just think of all the frustration that you could save yourself.
Oh my God, that's the
You're
worst.
so frustrated when people are if you're expecting people to behave a certain way and then they don't behave a certain way and you put all that stock in the way they behave, you can't control it, and now you're the one that's frustrated. All you can control is how you see it and what you believe. And so I think I'd say I learned this from my dad. We'd be driving and somebody'd get really frustrated and flip the bird or whatever, and he's like, how would you like to go through life like that, just frustrated at other people for actions you can't control? So it's kind of an interesting concept.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So should we get some tissue and drink some alcohol and wrap this up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Are we going to do our countdown? Mm-hmm. On that sad note.
On that sad note.
Okay, you ready for this?
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Everybody,
go be awesome!